Fuck it.
Fuck it. Fuck it.
Hey mama, if you are a mom and are tired of the wash, rinse, repeat burnout cycle of motherhood, this podcast is for you. If you feel lonely and isolated in your motherhood journey, this podcast is for you. If you feel like you have completely lost your identity since your babies were born, this podcast is for you. If you feel like every other mom has it together except for you, this podcast is for you. My name is Amanda, and I'm a life coach dedicated to teaching every mom the tools she needs to liberate herself off the back burner. I am living proof that a woman can be present and loving to her kids while also being a whole-ass person outside of being that kid's mom. The secret? Learning when to say fuck it.
Hey guys, how you doing this week? Mother's Day is this weekend. Did you know that? Because I fucking forgot. We've been so busy with the last couple of competitions, regional competitions for dance. We had the 34-hour one, which if you didn't catch that podcast episode, go check it out. It was a lot. But I also share some really valuable tips for fellow dance moms on how to get through these crazy competition weekends. But we had that one, and then we had a weekend off, and then we had another competition the following week. So that was last weekend from when I'm recording this right now. That one was only 22 hours for me. So not as bad as 34 hours, but still exhausting and just long. So yeah, I just kind of fucking blanked on the fact that Mother's Day is this week. So I'm so sorry, Mom, that I didn't get you anything. My mom lives in California. I live in Wisconsin. So I have to be very intentional with any sort of gifts. I also missed my Aunt Rosa's birthday. It was May 4th. Happy birthday, Aunt Rosa. I was at a competition. I'm so sorry. And I'm just tired. I'm just tired. Yeah. Crazy that it was our last competition already. Okay. So it's a lot, right? Dance is a lot. Keeping up with the schedule, everything, all of it is a lot. But also I am sad that it's almost this season is almost over, because I was watching my girls perform their dances that I've seen so many times at this point. And I was like, oh, I only get to watch them perform these dances, these specific dances, 2 more times. Maybe a couple of them I might be able to see 3 more times if they make it to best of the best at nationals, which I think they will. And it's I don't know. I get I'm emotionally invested in these particular dances, and I think they're so good, and I love watching them perform and do their thing. And it's I'm sad I don't get to see this one anymore. It's almost over. And also at the same time, I'm yes, it's almost over. I get a little bit of a break. And this is the reason why moms are a little bit neurotic. We're a little bit neurotic, because we have that exact experience all throughout motherhood in various different stages, right? It's just God, I can't wait for this to be over because it's really hard. But oh my God, I can't believe it's over. It's almost over. Please slow down so I can enjoy it. The parts that I enjoy, I want to savor it a little bit more. Craziness. We're fucking crazy. I have to do a shout out to my oldest daughter, Aowen, really quick, because this is her first year having a solo, and her solo at this last competition placed 3rd, and she was the category winner for her age group and style. So proud of that kid. She's come so far, and I'm so proud of her. I'm proud of all of them. They just never cease to amaze me at all. I love them so much. But yeah, Mother's Day just kind of fucking, but you know what? It's my day, right? So if I want to just kind of forget about it, then I can. Except there are other mothers that exist other than me that I need to I want to. I love showering them with love because they've done so much for me. My mom and my Nana, I love them so much. But yeah, you guys aren't going to get gifts because I just kind of forgot about it. But I am going to love you so fiercely with my words. I'll make it up to you guys. I promise. Aside from dance competitions and failing miserably at getting my mother a Mother's Day present, I have been reading. I know, weird. You're really shocked right now that I've been reading. Okay. This book, Normal People by Sally Rooney. Oh my God, it's so good. So there's a review on the cover from the Washington Post that says a novel that demands to be read compulsively in one sitting. They were not fucking lying. Like, I took this to the competition and I was reading in my downtime and I was mad every time I had to put it down. I'm almost done. Like, if you're watching the video, look, almost done. And I was actually, I was taking a break right before I hopped on to record this intro quick, and reading. And I set an alarm for myself for 30 minutes and the alarm went off, but I wasn't done with the chapter that I was on. And so I was like, I'm going to finish the chapter. And then I got to the end of the chapter and I'm like, I want to keep reading. It's so good. It's so good. So it's a romance. But it's like a dark, fucked up romance. It's my kind of romance. Oh God, I love it. I love this book so much. Go get it now. I got it at Target. It's everywhere. Apparently it's a Hulu series. I will watch the Hulu series, but I'm just like, I am always a little wary about watching movie or TV iterations of books that I really got passionate about, because it's always a coin flip, right? It's always just like, either they're going to do it justice and I'm going to be like, holy shit, you guys nailed it. Or I'm going to be like, you guys fucked this up. This wasn't what it was like in my head. And this is how book people are neurotic. I think I'm finding a theme here. I think I'm tired, you guys, is what it is. Another book that I actually listened to. Now, if you've been around for a while, you all know that I am not an audiobook person. I love the feel of books, but I joined this wealth consciousness community called The Wealth Vibe by Taylor Eaton. I'm going to put her YouTube channel in the show notes because she's fucking legit. Like, she's legit, guys. So she does tarot readings. So there is that woo factor, but it resonates. So if that is kind of like your thing, or you're interested in dipping your toes in that water, highly recommend her. But I just joined her community called The Wealth Vibe, and they have a book club within the community, and they're reading this book called A Happy Pocket Full of Money by David Cameron Gikandi. David Cameron Gikandi. There we go. And they were already so they're reading the book in 2 months, April and May, and I joined at the beginning of May. So they were already a month, so halfway through the book. And it's available for free, the audiobook version, for Spotify premium members, which I am. So I was like, well, I'm not going to Barnes & Noble anytime soon because so I live in Wisconsin, but I'm right on the border of Wisconsin and Minnesota. So I'm always in Minnesota, but there's a river separating the states, or at least at this part that we're at. I don't know if the river goes all the way down. Don't know. Don't yell at me if that geography is wrong. Where I'm at, there's a river that blocks the states. So we have a bridge. Actually, now there's two bridges that go across the river. That's it. That's our options to get fucking across the river. And the main one, they have decided to do construction on, and they have reduced that shit to one lane, and holy fucking ballsack, it takes forever to get over now. So I've been driving out of my way to the other bridge, which is pretty far north out of my way, just to avoid the traffic, because I cannot even with it. And in order to get to the Barnes & Noble, I have to cross the river. So I'm not going to Barnes & Noble anytime soon. Also, it wasn't even in stock. And I was like, I could order it, but they're already a month ahead of me. So let's just get over our little pretentious high horse here and just listen to the audiobook. And I'm so glad I binged it so quickly. Like I just started listening and it was blowing my fucking mind. It's so much, it is about like money mindset and increasing your wealth consciousness, but it's also so much more than that. I am going to recommend this book to every human that I meet because it's so good. It's so good. And it has so much truth and so much perspective in it. Just universal knowledge, universal absolute truth that everybody needs in their life. Go listen to that book. If you are a Spotify premium member, it's free. You fucking have nothing to lose and literally everything to gain by listening to this book. I will put the link to that in the description too. Where was I going with this? I don't know. These are the books that I've been reading and cannot recommend either of them more highly. So, we've got the romance fiction, which is just for fun. And then this other book, which is just going to change your life. It just is. It's going to change your life. Go fucking listen to it now or read it, whatever. Ingest it in whatever form you have to, but go get it. And that's what I've been up to, guys. I don't know what I'm going to do for Mother's Day except for rest because Saturday is a lot of kid things. We have acro at the dance studio, and then Aowen's, my oldest team, has an extra rehearsal thrown in there because too many people have missed jazz class lately. And then Ozzy has a birthday party. I swear to God, I feel like there was something else on my calendar for Saturday. So Saturday is kind of busy. On Sunday, I literally just want to sleep and bed rot. That's what I want to do on Sunday is just bed rot. And if I can get my kids on board, that's what we're doing. And I hope that you do the same. Just release yourself from all social expectations of what you should be doing. Like I admitted, like I fucking screwed the pooch on getting my mom a gift. And I'm going to have a heartfelt conversation with her before this podcast airs because I'm not an asshole about like, hey, I'm a level with you. It has nothing to do with like my thoughts about you as a mom. Here are my thoughts of you as a mom and how important you are to me and just express them to her. I'm sorry I didn't get you a gift. I really, really, truly am. I really am. I just, just do what you want to do on Mother's Day. And if it doesn't line up with what other people think you should be doing on Mother's Day, just, maybe tell those people to fuck off. That's my advice. Oh my gosh. Speaking of saying, fuck off and fuck it. Have you guys listened to the Fuck It Friday episode? I'm so obsessed. I am obsessed because I think it's brilliant. And I can't stop talking about it because it just brings me so much joy. If you haven't listened to it yet, go listen to it after you listen to this episode. So this week, I have another guest for you guys. My God, she was such a delight to interview. So her name is Carolina, and she is a womb healer. She uses Reiki. I think you pronounce it Reiki. And when I first met her, I was like, okay, what is this? And then she explained it, and she's fascinating. Her work is really amazing. But her personal story is so inspiring and so touching, and everybody needs to hear it. And I'm so honored that she shared it with us. So I can't wait for you guys to hear it. Let me know what you think in the review section of Apple Podcasts or the Q&A section of Spotify, and you will be entered into my monthly book and Starbucks gift card raffle. I appreciate you guys doing that for me. Thank you so much. Let me know what kind of topics that you would like to hear. Let me know what you want to say fuck it to. Let me know what kind of guests you want to hear. I want to hear from you guys. I love you. Have a great Mother's Day. Keep kicking ass. Okay, tangent, like before we start, I watched the Eras tour because I love Taylor Swift. I don't know how she fucking sings 5-6 songs without drinking any water. She never drank any water.
She doesn't?
No, which means she's only drinking water when she runs backstage for her 30-second costume change. And I'm like, how? How are you doing this? She's like not actually human.
I love her so much. There's so much goodness in her.
I know.
I admire her as a human, as a woman. I admire her very much. She's a human design projector. Did you know that?
No, what is that?
It's very like human design is kind of like Kabbalah, chakras, astrology mixed in kind of one system. And then there's like 5 different energy types.
Okay.
And a projector is like a guider, a healer, a coach in the world. And they provide connections and awareness of patterns that may be of a bigger picture that people may not see. And the number one thing, a couple of things about projectors, they like to take naps. And they are fueled by recognition. And if they're acknowledged. So if I was watching her on the Eras tour and my friend pointed it out to me and she goes, you know that she's a projector because we're deeply into human design.
Okay.
And as a human design person to get recognized living and creating something that is your best work and it blowing up the way I was like, well, that makes sense. I was like, she's being admired. She's living her best life by also doing the thing that she loves the most.
Yeah.
You're watching a person being fulfilled in their life's dreams. That was wonderful to realize.
Yeah, no, I totally see that for her. And that's the only reason, that's the only explanation for her stamina. She is living in her zone of genius, That is the only explanation because her stamina is insane. I mean, this tour is insane, just that in and of itself. But while she was on this insane tour, she was also writing and recording an album that's being released at the end of this week. And it's like, what?
Is it this week?
Yeah, on Friday. I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh. Wait, I did know that because there was like this conspiracy theory on TikTok that
of course there was.
Target put the end caps out and they put the name as Serpentine.
Oh, okay.
That there is going to be a double album release on Friday.
Oh, I would die.
They called it an egg. So I'm a new Swiftie. Like I loved her from the beginning, but I wasn't like a diehard. But now I am. So like, I'm like, oh, they laid an Easter egg. Like they put, maybe I'm saying this wrong, but like, I know that the fan Swifties have been, they call them eggs, that they're clues.
Yeah.
And I was like, did Target mess up? Did they give us an egg? I love watching other people like give like their conspiracies.
Yeah.
I am into it.
Yeah. That's so funny. I'm just not really in like social media. The only social media that I do is just for my business. I do like, I follow a precious few accounts that are just like for me because they make me laugh or they bring me joy or like whatever. But for the most part, I'm not on social media at all. I'm the last person to find out anything. I don't watch the news because it's too heavy for me. My daughter, my 13-year-old daughter had to tell me that Queen Elizabeth had died. And this was like weeks after she died. She's like, how did you not know? I'm like, because I don't watch the news and I'm not on social media. But thanks for telling me this irrelevant
I get all my
information.
news from TikTok. I sound like
I'm
OJ
positive
died.
that's where she got it from. She's not watching the news.
Yeah, I love my life has changed. I found out good things and bad things about myself from TikTok. One, I learned that I'm actually good at video marketing. I suck at writing. So I just rather talk about it and do videos. And then it inspired me to actually do a podcast. I'm like, I could do some things with my life.
There you go. I mean, we're not all meant to like do it all. Like, that's why it's so great that there's different mediums for all of us to thrive.
I think I have strong opinions that, we were lied to by the generation before us. They're like, you can do anything, you can be anything. I believe that you can have it all, but not all at the same time. Like the days that I'm a really good mom, I am not necessarily the best entrepreneur, or when I was in corporate, I wasn't the best. If I was the best worker that day, I probably something took a back shift.
Of
like
course.
a backseat. Yeah. So you're
Yeah.
not all the things. And I think that like people who are new moms, like
Yeah.
you need to know like, oh yeah, you can still have it all, but it's not going to be all in the same seasons. And you get to decide like what is your priority. Not, Heather down the street or, the PTO, like you get to decide.
Yes. Yes. And
That's
there is
so
no wrong
important.
choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because we get hung up on like, okay, but what is the right choice? What if I make the wrong choice? It's like the wrong decision. It's like, okay, if you find out that it's the wrong decision for you, you don't like that choice after all, it's okay. Just make a new one.
Yes. I also love that. I used to be like, I used to have 5-year plans for everything. And I recently did a podcast and the girl asked me, what's your 5-year plan? I was like, I don't have one. Cause I changed so much. Like I kind of have like an idea what we're going to do for the rest of the year and like in my business.
Yeah.
But like, I don't make 5-year plans. Like I have maybe like one goal to homeschool my son when he gets to 6th grade and move to Spain. And that's not a lofty dream. Like it's a very like, it's something that I'm actively working on hard for, but that's it. And I think that my motto is we will do this until it no longer works for us.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think a lot of people get caught up with like, I'm married to this. And then when it falls apart, you're like, kind of like when you have kids and you're a mom and you're working the things and you're a wife or a partner to someone, shit happens.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it just doesn't look the way that you thought it was going to look. And so often we make goals based on a feeling that we're looking for. And then we get there and we doesn't feel the way that we thought it would feel. And like, it's okay. You don't have, if you stay, like you said, married to that goal or like that vision or whatever it was, you just stay stuck. Then you're just trying to force yourself to like this life. And it's okay. Just change it. It doesn't mean you're a failure.
I don't know. I feel like I have had so many losses in life that have really given me the benefit of being reminded for now.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget what actress it was. I can see her. She was, what actress was it? She has brown hair. She's older. She's like, if not now, then when? And she was like middle age. She was like in her 60s. She won an award for something. And she went from she's an actress. And then she went to directing or producing or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, if not now in my 60s, then when?
Yeah.
And she's right. Like, if you're not going to do this now, and I thought, if I'm not going to quit corporate, I'm never going to quit. Like, if I didn't quit corporate, it's actually this week. Friday is 3-year anniversary.
Yeah.
And I quit corporate. I was like, if I'm not going to quit corporate now, then when the hell am I going to do? I'm just going to stay stuck.
Yeah.
And I did it. And it was like the best decision I've ever made.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So introduce yourself, please, before we continue just talking without any introduction.
Hi, I'm Carolina Sotomayor. I am a fertility Reiki womb healer, and I help women conceive their babies with Reiki. It's the exact modality or energy healing that helped me conceive my son, who's now 7. And based upon my life experiences that were extremely painful, from childhood trauma to I had an abortion in my 20s and I was assaulted in my 20s, to dating all of the wrong men, to heartbreaks, into like overcoming an alcoholic mom and a narcissistic dad and his death, and my infertility journey, my complicated pregnancy, traumatic birth, and my severe postpartum. I've taken those and seen the patterns, and I now help moms move through fertility, pregnancy, and postpartum with more ease, with the philosophy of the more we heal up front, the less complicated those experiences are going to be. And we work through mostly blockages, emotional traumas that are stuck in your physical body. And we use Reiki to release those and provide insight on what messages you need to know from spirit baby that you're going to conceive. And we release them so that your womb is harmonious and ready to receive, because your womb needs to be open in order to get pregnant. And if we are not connected to ourselves, connected to who we are, connected to our bodies, you can't even know to begin how you feel so you can feel your emotions completely and then release them. So then you can become unblocked. And we use Reiki to do that. So far we have exactly 99 babies as of 2 days ago. And I'm super excited because it's just such an honor to help someone. Like I get a text and it's like a positive pregnancy test, or it's stuck, or it took, whether it's an IUI, an IVF, or natural conception, or a round of Clomid, whatever their choice is, they're not going into this terrified.
Yeah.
And they're not going in with the fear of the terror that they may have had maybe from previous losses, or just the uncertainty or the lack of support or the lack of awareness around what's going to happen next. They have a community behind them. They have me with them.
Yeah.
And they also know how to heal themselves because we teach them Reiki inside the membership.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And there's so much juicy goodness in everything that you just said. I mean, like your life, it could be made into like 5 different movies. Like it seems like you've lived so many different lives.
Most healers, most therapists have, like, I'm not a therapist. I'm not comparing myself to a therapist, but most people who get into work related to women's health, they do have a story. Like
Yes.
100%, like birth doulas, death doulas, other womb healers. There's not many of us, but I found a few.
Yeah.
It's because there has been womb trauma.
Yeah. So I guess I want to begin with your fertility journey.
Okay. So how this all started was my dad died in April of 2014. His anniversary just passed. So he's been dead 10 years. And he was my person in the world. He was also a key point in my life where he was the person that never physically abused me in my entire family. He was the one person that never physically harmed me. So in my mind was, if he didn't hit me, then he was a safe person. And that's what my 15-year-old mind made up that story. He was not a very present person before the age of 15. 15 is when I went to live with him.
Okay.
And before that, I had just lived with my mom.
Okay.
And
when did your parents divorce? How old were you?
Yeah, they divorced before I was a year old, and they separated when my mom was 6 months pregnant with me. That's a huge narrative that's weaved through my life of a lack of accountability or a lack of presence of his life in mine. Until it was absolutely necessary and he was kind of forced to. That kind of affected my self-worth and how my whole perception of myself and what I thought I was capable of, or what I deserved, or what I thought of myself. So because he was my safe person and he died, it was awful for me. The grief was very physical, and I felt very unsafe in the world. I felt like what is true, what is not. Death was very bizarre to me. So I went on this spiritual journey to learn how to be a medium. I've always believed in the other side. I have seen ghosts since I was 5. I have always felt things. So I was like, well, I'm going to find out how can he go from me talking to him and just me needing him and needing his approval and needing access to him, kind of became this obsession, unhealthy obsession of well, how can I ring him on the other side? Why does death have to be the cutoff instead of I just believed that I could then get access to him another way. And that's when I started dipping into spirituality. In there, I got engaged.
So before that, you weren't really spiritual?
No, I was more Christian, probably, I would consider.
Okay.
I was saved. I had a deep belief in God. I prayed a lot, but I had not done anything before that. Oh, well, no, I lived in Miami. So I did go to, if you live in certain neighborhoods, you can always get access to a bruja, which is, I have visited a bruja before, and every Hispanic knows someone who's a bruja, which is like a witch.
Okay.
And you may have get a baños, you might get a bath. If I had ended engagements before then. So I had gotten a spiritual cleanse one time. And then as soon as I went back to church, they're like, you got Satan on you, so let's pray over you. So that's the only other spiritual thing I've ever done.
Oh my gosh. So did you struggle with feeling sinful or guilty or dirty, diving into this new realm of spirituality? Because I grew up Christian too. And I know definitely we're not supposed to be communing with the dead.
No, I actually was recommended to go see a psychic medium. And I was just like, I felt like anything that connected to me, to my dad, was not unholy. I felt like if he believed in nothing, he was like a complete atheist, but I believed in what I believed so deeply to my core that if someone could connect me to my dad, then I was going to give it a shot. This woman knew exact conversations that I had with my dad on his deathbed, because I sat with him for 3 weeks before he died, and I cared for him in hospice. With the colon cancer, like changing his diapers and things like that. It was really like she knew exact conversations that we had and things that happened and transpired that I had not told anyone, because I was living in Nebraska, where I am now, and then I flew to be with him, and I took FMLA while he was in hospice. And when she told me those things, like conversations that he and I had, and that was right before my wedding. That was in November, around Thanksgiving, 2014. And I got married December 21st of 2014. So it happened all pretty fast. And it was her conversations, that mediumship, that one session allowed me, like, I wanted to marry my husband. But my biggest dream was, like, as a little girl that didn't have her dad, that finally got her dad later in life,
to have him walk you down the aisle.
Walk me down the aisle. My mom ended up walking me down the aisle, but there were certain things she would say would happen during our wedding. And I was like, we're going to have it on the beach. And we're getting married at the Farito, which is a lighthouse where my dad used to take me to ride our bikes. We got married on that beach next to that like lighthouse, but he also took my mom there. He took my brother and sister there, who I am not close with, but like, it was a significant place that like I didn't have a lot of shared experience with my siblings, let alone with like both parents. But like this was a place that of good, when he was good with my mom, when he was good with my brother and sister. So like, and then he took me there, all like very separate occasions. It was like, this was a shared. So it was like one of the few things I had in the world that made it all whole. And there was like a medallion, and my cousins and other people were like, oh, did you see the medallion on the table at like where we like poured sand together? I was like, no. And then like, I was like, what are you talking about? There was like a medallion. There was a big coin on the table. And I was like, I looked through the photos. There's no picture of this coin, but people who were like, what was that? I was like, what are you talking about? So there was this story against like people who were not like parties. And even on my husband's side, they're like, what was that thing on the table? I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then my cousin, she's like, there was a coin there. And I was like, what are you talking about? And there's not a single picture of it, but there's been people are saying there was like this giant medallion on the table. The sky was perfect. The photos were perfect. And like the day was easy. And I feel like he was there, and without her, I wouldn't have been able to. I feel like she just gave me the peace I needed. And from then on, she did workshops, and I took those workshops. So fast forward, we weren't getting pregnant as newlyweds, and my libido was low. And I was like, okay, let's go to the doctor. Everything checked out medically fine. But the specialist said, you are just really sad. You should go see a therapist. And that's when I started the grief therapy. And then the therapist said, fast forward to 2016, she's like, you need to get Reiki, or you need to probably get on an antidepressant. And that same week, I was in the psychic shop looking for some crystals. I had fallen off my horse. I was put on medical leave, and I needed a crystal for my concussion. I had fallen in a ditch, and I was basically a hurricane on wheels. Like I was just go, go, go. And I didn't know that was a trauma response. And either I was doing the work in therapy, and, she's like, you're still kind of stuck. And the psychic who had given me that same message, she's like, your chakras, your sacral plexus chakra, which is your womb, and your throat are blocked. You're not speaking your truth. And you need Reiki. That was 2 people the same week. So I was like, well, that's a fucking sign. So I went and got Reiki with the lady that the therapist recommended, not the psychics lady. And I was
Had you ever heard of Reiki before they mentioned it?
No.
Okay. No. So what did you think about it when you like went home and Googled it? And
I didn't even Google it. I
Oh,
didn't
really?
even no. The therapist told me it would be like a massage, and that the person I was going to see was a certified trauma therapist who actually did Reiki, and that it would open up my energy and it would be a spiritual experience. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then as soon as I walked into the place, it was like
So were you going into it like completely blank slate, just like, okay, we'll see what this is going, or did you have any thoughts about it being stupid or like, oh, it's just
no,
going to
I
be
was
a nice
totally open to
massage?
it.
Okay.
I was totally open to it. In the psychic, I took everything that she said as gospel. And she told me, I was like, okay. And she's like, in order for you to conceive, like the reason why you're not conceiving is that these two things are blocked.
Yeah.
So then I walked in and I saw what I call my Reiki mother. She's the one who certified me. She's giving Reiki to my husband. She's giving Reiki to my kid. She's mentored me. She's the one who harassed me enough to get certified. And I was like, I just saw her and she was like the most peaceful, calm person I have ever met. And I'm like, I don't know calm people. And she was just like literally in the embodiment of like Mother Earth and nurturing and calmness and safety in a person. And I just wanted to like bottle it up. I wanted to be with her. And it was a 90-minute massage. And I cried so hard in that session. It was the first time that I could like breathe normal after all this time. And it was intense. And she like said things like, she goes, and she didn't know that I had lost my dad. She goes, did you lose a father figure? There's a blue, and there was like this blue orb. So she opened up like kind of like a portal, and I got to see this like neon blue orb that would just like bing, 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 bing. And it was the first time like I'd felt my dad physically touch my legs before. I felt like things get very cold. And like I known that was him before. I've smelled him before that session, but I had never seen him. And I've seen him in my dreams in different like versions of himself, like when he was younger, when he was more healed and he didn't have cancer.
Yeah.
But this is the first time I seen him in a non-human form. And that was really wild. I was like, I was like, that's my dad. And she's like, yeah, I can feel him. He's very polite. She goes, he has an accent. I was like, she didn't know I was Hispanic. She doesn't know that my dad had the heaviest of accents possible. And like, I was just like, so I left there. I felt blissful. I felt like I was floating.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want more of that shit, whatever that shit is.
Right.
I was like, yes. So the next month we were pregnant with Ollie.
The next month.
Wow.
So how long had you been trying to get pregnant?
Shortly after our honeymoon, which was 2014. So
and you got
2015.
pregnant with him.
Yeah, in the beginning of 2016. So I had fell off my horse in mid-February, got Reiki that same month.
Yeah.
And then we were pregnant in March. And then we shared the news April 6th, which is the anniversary of my dad. We told my in-laws. Because every year I do something to honor my dad in some way, but it's not big or showy. But in this year, they didn't even know we were trying. They didn't even know anything that was going on.
Yeah.
And like we had never shared anything with them because everyone's pretty private in their family.
Okay.
And I just gave them a pacifier. I was like, this would mean a lot to me if we could tell your parents.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, let's do it. And we gave them a pacifier. And I think that was like the most healing moment, I think, in my relationship with my mother-in-law. Like I like tried to include her, but we didn't really have any common ground. And that was the beginning of like something really beautiful between us. So that was how I got started in Reiki. It was the conception of my son.
Wow.
And then I got Reiki through my entire pregnancy. And she's like, you could do this. And I was like, you're crazy. That's a you thing. That's not a me thing. And then I gave birth to Ollie. She gave me Reiki through my birth. Like you can give Reiki in person or distance. And then I got diagnosed with postpartum depression, anxiety. I was not functioning very well. So I would go Ryan would hold baby in the waiting room, and then I would get a session and I would function. I was still doing talk therapy. And it took me probably until like 16 to 18 months to fully coming out of the like what I call the darkness. And be like, oh, okay, things are not so bad anymore. Like around 14 months, I think we figured out baby. Like, oh, he's not dying. We can take it. We can do this whole parent thing. Like I didn't even know how to be the baby. I'd never been around babies. I'm the youngest in the family. And for most of my life, I was the only child because my siblings are so much older than me.
Okay.
So like I didn't know. I just knew that I'd be a good mom, but I didn't know the mechanics of like motherhood.
Right.
So
it's a huge learning curve. They just throw you in the pool and just give you this baby and be like, go home.
Like I knew more about like breast pumps than I did about knowing how to take care of a baby. And I had done like all the classes. So it was because of Reiki that I was able to come out of that. I worked in pharmaceutical manufacturing and I stayed home 4 months with Ollie, and Reiki gave me enough pauses, enough like it would give me like, oh, okay, I can function. I felt normal. Other times, like after the Reiki would wear off, I like not like I would like all right, I'm fine, and I was perfectly functioning well as long as I didn't leave my house. But then I would become overstimulated, and like going to the grocery store was too hard unless I was baby wearing him. Like just learning how to breastfeed was really hard, and I worked really hard at it because it was the only thing I had left. And I think because of Reiki gave me enough glimpses and I could experience joy again. I could feel happiness. I could feel normal. I could feel grounded in my body. I could feel like happy for those moments and not feel like so dark or scared all the time. Whereas that was my norm.
Yeah.
It led me to that. I'm like, okay. So when Ollie was 6 months old, when I was 6 months postpartum, I got certified in Reiki 1 and 2. But I didn't start practicing until 2018. Yeah,
okay.
Is this when I launched. That's when I started doing like postpartum Reiki focused. And then I got asked to join a chiropractic office, and I started doing it inside the chiropractic office instead of mobile. And then I started to see all women. I've only ever seen one man. I practice Reiki on my son and my husband, but I am not a Reiki practitioner for men. So I specialized in women, and then I saw from menopause in, the suburban half-life that was bored or unhappy. But then everything went back to the womb, and somebody called me the womb healer. And then right before COVID, I tend to feel things before the larger group of people I'm serving or the collective, as some people say. So right before COVID happened, February of that year, 2020, I quit seeing in-person people and I went online, and then I started my online journey.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. I didn't know anything about Zoom because I had only used, like WebEx.
Okay.
In corporate, and I learned like Zoom, and I started my online Reiki practice. And then the whole like, am I just as powerful online as I am in person? And the answer is yes. And then defining like getting on TikTok, getting coaching on how to do an online business, all the things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then here we are, 18,000 followers on TikTok, a podcast, and 99 Reiki babies. So
no big deal.
No big deal. But like, here we are. And then I also started a marketing agency in there too, because I was like, oh, I'm learning all these other things. But just because you're good at something doesn't mean you should do it. And I shut that agency down probably in mid-February of this year. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I don't like being a dual entrepreneur. It burnt me out. So,
but now you know that.
Now I know that. And just like, I don't want to do this. It's too masculine. I want to do I asked myself, like, I knew the anniversary was coming up of my dad. I was like, it's my reminder of like, am I doing all the things that are aligned for me that are going to bring greatest happiness to me and my family? The answer was hell no. So
I love that you use your dad's anniversary for that, like to do that evaluation on yourself. I lost my father too. And I love that because it's beautiful. Like to ground yourself and remind yourself of like what's really important in life, and ask yourself like, am I actually focused on what's important right now?
It happens really fast. Like every year happens a little bit faster. Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's pretty wild. Death is still a weird thing. And it's been a wild ride with him. Like some years, you know, he was the hardest person to ever love. And I loved him fiercely, but also like he was complicated and narcissistic, and his shelves are he's on my shelf in an urn. Yeah, but I still love him. Like if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't, if I had not sought out how to be a medium so I could talk to him, I would have.
It wouldn't
never
have led you to Reiki.
No.
Yeah.
And to talk to spirit babies or to like
talking to spirit babies?
Yeah, I talk to spirit babies now.
What is that?
Spirit babies are the babies that are coming in to be conceived.
Okay. My mom always talks about like that, like babies is that. And I don't know that I subscribe to that in particular, but she's always just like, just thank you for choosing me to be your mom. And I'm like, I didn't choose anything. Like you and dad like made me. But yeah, she has that opinion. And I'm just like, I don't know. It's
definitely a belief thing.
Yeah. Like, well, everything is a belief.
Yeah. Right. So like, so we did a world religions book because Ollie was coming home talking about like, actually a kid told him he was going to hell. And I was like, let's talk about this. Mm-hmm. And then we talked about all the different religions, and Brian bought a book. My husband bought a book off of Amazon. And now Ollie goes, I'm a little bit Christian, but I'm mainly Buddhist because I want to come back and do this all over again. And like, so he believes, I'm like, I believe in reincarnation too. So like, maybe I'm not the traditional Christian. I'm more of a spiritualist that I do love to pray and I do love Mother Earth. And I probably think Jesus is a woman. Like, I don't know. Or not, like God is a woman, Jesus is a man. But like, you know, like I believe in different things.
I have always thought that the Holy Spirit is a woman. Like
fucking yes. Like, I mean,
the Holy Spirit has such a feminine energy, and I'm like, it just makes sense. It just makes sense. There has to be a woman. It can't be like we literally came out of. I can't.
I went down the Mary Magdalene. I'm reading a book. It's the Mary Magdalene manuscripts. I'm only 20 pages in. I just started it.
Yeah.
And it talks about like her relationship with Jesus. And
I'm
like
so fascinated by that.
Okay, finally, someone on my train.
So fascinated.
Like, me too. And then I was telling another mom at a play date, and then and she's like, I was telling her, I was like, dude, she's like, what are you up to? I was like, I am like dissecting what this really means. Like, I practice Kundalini Reiki, and it talks about Ka energy, Ka. And then I was like, I was reading this manuscript about Mary Magdalene and how she was like Jesus' partner and how they had sex and they had a child. And then when they were, and she was from this tribe in Egypt called Isis, you know, like she is a deity, and like they practice sex magic. And like when they had sex, she like gave him Ka energy, and that's how he could perform greater miracles. And she's like, are you sure that's not the Da Vinci Code? Because like, I was like, I don't know. And like, and this is where I knew that I'm definitely a human, because you learn as you get older, you learn how little you know. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know. And I was like, I don't know what that is. And she's like, I have another assignment. I'm like, oh my God. So much to unpack here. So that was the most fun play date ever.
Yeah.
At the park.
Yeah.
I love my friend who's very much not woo at all. And I'm like, and she goes, the way you get excited about this, I was like, what if there's a lineage of God's children, like Jesus' children?
Yeah, that would be fascinating. And it's just like, why wouldn't Jesus have had the full human experience? Oh, because the men who wrote the Bible had this agenda of like sex is sinful and evil, but not when they do it. They can do it like whenever and with whomever they want.
As many wives as they want.
Yes, but you know, and also there's this whole thing about like lost chapters of the books of the Bible that she wrote that was like her perspective and her story, and it just got trashed because the men who wrote the Bible like just cut it out, and then they painted her as like this, you know, demon possessed whore.
Yeah, I don't think so. Actually, when I channel Reiki and I we call it casting a container. Mm-hmm. I always say like, I ask for Jesus. I pray to Kuan Yin, which is like the Chinese goddess of mercy and compassion.
Okay.
And then I say Buddha and Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Mother Earth, our ancestors of love and light, our spirit guides, and our spirit babies. I cast this container of protection and healing. Anything that's not for our highest good may not enter. Like you're commanding what can happen in the container for healing.
Yeah.
And I always pray to Mary Magdalene. So I'm just like, hey, girlfriend. So like, if I had to pick one, she would be it.
Yeah.
So like, so yeah, that's how I can see my baby. Like,
it's so interesting though. I really love your journey and I love how open you were because grief can really do a number on somebody. It can ruin your life, make you very pessimistic and bitter and
it did. I was angry for a long time in that grief journey. Like so much shit happened. Like, so he died and then 3 days later, my abuelo died. His dad died. So like, but I was still very much in love. So I think it fueled like the fear of dying fueled how fast we got married. Like I was also 30. I was like, well, if we're going to do this, let's do this. Like, so we got engaged and married within 90 days. It was 90 days from the date he proposed. We got married.
Yeah.
And then I was like, let's do it. Let's do the thing.
Did you guys have your wedding planned before your dad died or was that?
No.
Okay. So
I literally asked him, I was like, will you come to Miami so we can get married when my dad's alive and we can get married in front of his hospital bed? And he said, no, we're not doing that. I was like, you suck. But, no, because he didn't actually propose till September 21st. Here we are. Because like, basically we had dated. And then like when he officially asked me to be his girlfriend, he's like, well, we can't get married before we can't live together before we get married. I was like, can we just like date for a while? Because we were whatever. This is the only place I've ever lived where it's like, we're not exclusive, we're exclusive. So then they finally asked me, you're like, I was like, dude, can we just date for a while? But he's like, no, we're going to get married. I was like, okay then. So like, I loved him. So
yeah.
And here we are 10 years later. So, yeah, it's been a wild ride. I feel like grief, one, is not talked about, but also like the fact that I would get so tired, like the sadness made me so tired.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
It's exhausting. It was hard to get out of bed. It was hard to go to work. It was hard to like, I remember, I was in quality assurance and it was a very busy plant and they were doing so many things. The plant was actually shut down. Mm-hmm. Because it was in remediation. There were a lot of issues. And I remember like making copies at the copier and my friend at the time, he was a coworker and he goes, Carolina, you need to put on some makeup. You look really rough. And I was like, way to make me feel like a winner. And
you would never say that to a man.
No. And also he was Hispanic. So like there was like this connection. Yeah. He said it in Spanish. And I was like, kind of like F you, like you never like you don't know what it took for me to get here today is like all I remember is like I almost didn't come in today, right? But like just like I was like, oh my god, I must look like a can of trash. But like I just remember that like just like you're just expected to bounce back, no matter what. You're supposed to bounce back after death, you're supposed to bounce back after having a baby and be the person you were before. I was the happiest person before my dad died. I was like a ball of energy. Mm-hmm. And then I was the sad girl. And I think that's when I went in to have the Reiki session and I was basically telling the therapist that I was like, I'm done being sad. And I think that that's why I conceived with that one session was I basically was done. I was ready to let it go. Right. And because most people don't conceive after one Reiki session. That's a fact. Like in my experience, but I had been doing the work with her for a long time. And I'm pretty aggressive in most things I do. I'm an all or nothing kind of girl. I'm all in. And I was all in with like, I had motivation. I had seen my mom talk about people she had lost and she would just crumble. And I was like, I want to be able to talk about my dad. I want to be able to talk about my life. I want to be able to talk about my life with him and our experiences without falling apart. I don't want to be triggered by talking about him. Yeah. And then I also didn't want to, with my abuelo, like I wasn't as close with him. Like I had only met him a few times, but my dad loved him. So I had a fondness for him. And then 1 year to the same week after my dad died, my horse died, like my soul horse.
No.
And thankfully I had a second horse. And that's the one that, gave me, I call it a God smack. Like if you don't take a time out and take the pause,
Yep.
God will smack you, or the universe.
Uh-huh.
And that's what like I wasn't going to conceive unless I had a time out.
And
yeah,
you couldn't
what the
keep
concussion
going
was.
in the way that you were going. Like you could not keep going that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what that was.
Yeah.
God's like you didn't fucking listen. Here you go. You're going to be out on 8 weeks.
Right.
And I was working 10-hour days at the plant. I was obsessed because that was my identity. Like I work, so, and my worth was like with how hard I worked and how much I put into this. And, so that was the lesson, was like grief was was partly why I didn't conceive, but really the root cause was I didn't feel safe in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And what I had attached and defined as safety was my dad. And with him being gone, how do I feel safe to exist in the world anymore?
Right.
And that lady with the one session made me feel safe enough to breathe differently after so much time. Mm-hmm. And then I went on to feel, then transfer. Like I wasn't still a whole person yet. I wasn't feel strong enough yet, but I transferred. I was open to like, my husband's like, you're beautiful. You're amazing. And so then I started to believe I think that was like the breaking point. The consequence of like also from that session was I transferred the safety more to what my husband's words were. And I let myself to believe the version of myself that he saw. Which was bigger and better than what I actually thought of myself.
Right. You borrowed that for a bit.
And then eventually because of him, I actually then felt strong enough to be myself all of the time. And that's when I quit corporate.
And so are you able to create your own safety for yourself now?
Oh, yes. And that's why I can sit here and say, hey, I was assaulted in my 20s and I had an abortion, and it doesn't mean you're the end of the world. It doesn't mean you're a bad person.
Right.
You can go on and have babies after that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And to share my story, like I've been ridiculed and criticized on YouTube, the comments, whatever, if I ever talk openly about my abortion. Mm-hmm. And then I'm here like, yeah, it's part of my journey, but I've done the work to own. You can't shame me because I already own the experience. There's no more skeletons in my closet. Yeah. So and when you get to that point and you feel that secure in yourself, and if you feel like safe enough to speak up, mm-hmm. it changes you. I am human. I might see something. I just delete the comment, delete and block, or just block. Yeah. But I've learned how to ground myself. And I also have learned that I've lost a lot of people too. Like I'm bold in the things that I believe in. Reiki has made me lose a lot of people because either their beliefs they're triggered because I'm doing something different. Yeah. Or they're triggered by the version that I've become. Yeah.
Last you can't August, take everyone with you. Like, not everyone is meant to be in every season of your life, and it's okay. And when you can accept that and you stop fighting and resisting it and trying to force people to come with you, or try to force them to change, or try to force yourself to change so that they can all come with you, you just get freed up to continue being who you're growing into being. And it's okay.
I think also the greatest thing about manifesting that most people don't understand is for the best things to come in, or the thing that you want to invite in, you need to create space for it. Yes. The best people have come in because of the healed version of me. Yes. Because of the Reiki. And they are people, some of I've never met, but also they're clients that become friends. And then they text me pictures of their baby. We're listening to your podcast and he fell asleep. Look. And since they hear my voice and they were in utero, or he's exactly how you described him as he was in my belly. Just I can't, I would take that over every friend that dumped me or that said I was going to hell, because Reiki is not godly. And I believe actually probably Jesus was a Reiki healer. Like, I'm like, okay, hell doesn't exist. Thanks for inviting me.
Right.
But okay. And I also know where I place value now. I had to dissect from as much reduction as I've had.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to decide where I place power. And my power really relies within the home that I've built here. I really care how my husband feels about me, and I really care about how my son views me, and I really care about how I feel. So how well am I sleeping at night?
Yeah.
That is really where, so I ask, and is that person paying my light bill? Are they my lover? And not even with my mom. My mom, she doesn't have the power. She's my mom, but also that is also a privilege for her. We've been no contact before. We're currently in contact season, and that's great. And she, with boundaries. So but that even is, so you can tell me whatever you want, but really that doesn't have that. I'm not placing value on your words because your words have no value with me. I decide who has value and weight in my life.
Yes. And the words that people say are just their thoughts, and thoughts are just optional sentences that your brain offers you. And once you really let that truth sink in, it helps so much with other people's thoughts, because those aren't absolute truth. Your thoughts are not absolute truth unless you decide that they are. And other people's thoughts are not absolute truth unless you decide that they are.
Facts. Thank you.
Yes.
Put that on a shirt. I cut. So I believe that no matter if you're trying to conceive or if you're just a person with a uterus, whatever you identify with, you should always do womb healing, Reiki womb healing, because it'll always leave you better off than you were before. And it'll make you feel more connected to who you are. And that feeling of wholeness is something that you should and deserve to experience, where you don't have to be anything else than you are right now. You're deserving just as you are. You're complete as you are. You're not broken. You don't have to compete. You just are existing, and it is enough, and it is wonderful. That feeling, oh goodness, it is beautiful. I hope every woman, every person knows what that feels like.
Yes. Yes. Because that's the point of life. If you go your whole life, if you live to be 100, but you never get that feeling, what was it all for?
And a lot of people go through life not knowing that feeling.
I know, it's really sad.
Yeah. It's bewildering to me. I've been learning about the nervous system. And I interviewed a lady yesterday who's a somatic healer, and she was explaining how our bodies are meant to complete a cycle in the survival response. And if your body does not complete that cycle, it gets stuck in your tissues. And I was like, oh, I'm really good at unstucking people. And I said, with a little bit of Reiki and a little bit of coaching and their empowerment, people can shift things really fast. It's just a readiness too.
Yes. Yep.
A readiness.
I have a question about your relationship with your mom. And
it's a good one.
It sounds complicated. And how and if it affected your relationship with yourself as a mother, identifying as a mother.
I knew since I was little that what she was doing would not be the way I would do it. I just knew, when I was getting a spanking or the way she would yell, it was when I have kids, this is not going to be the way. This is the wrong way. This is not it's not supposed to be this way. It's a constant thing I had always said in my mind. This is not the way it's supposed to be. And I never feared of being a mom. I just knew an absolute certainty, because I believed what happened to me from as soon as I knew that I didn't want to live with her at age 15, that I knew if I continued to live with her that I wouldn't survive, that mentally I wouldn't survive, that I would know what not to do, because I felt like she had made all the mistakes. And so I knew exactly, I knew what to do right because I knew of all the things that she did wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I had shaped it. And that's how I shaped it also with my dad. So a lot of decisions literally in my 20s when I was on my own, I'd be like, okay, what would my mom do? And I literally call her by her name. And a lot of the times, depending on my mood, like if we're like cordial and we're not like in a sweet spot, or if she's triggered me, I might use her name. And, or if like around Ollie, I'll just call her mom. So like, for her, for me to become a mom, I remember my greatest mentor, she said, if you ever want to be a good mom, I remember, and I used to do quality assurance documentation. So I was going through batch records and we would be there late. And she's actually my son's godmother now. She is a huge component of why I'm so successful in many things in life.
Mm.
She's like, if you ever want to think about being a mom, you need to know where your mom is in the world and how is she doing. And you need to accept her as a human. And I was like,
tough pill to swallow.
It was a tough pill. It was like, because we were in no contact at that point.
Yeah.
And my dad would kind of like, he goes, it's my side or her side. How can you talk to a person like that? It was very kind of like, if I was good with my dad, I couldn't be good with my mom. If I was good with my mom, I couldn't be good with my dad.
Mm.
So it was very difficult. So it was just usually one-sided. So I was dating a guy at that point, and I had ended my engagement, and I was dating another guy, and I was like, I could really see myself getting married to this guy. And she's like, how can you think about that? I was like, I would really love to be a mom with like, and have a family with him. And she's like, and that's where the conversation came from.
Okay.
And I approached graduation from college. I graduated college at 29 with my bachelor's degree. And she's like, if you invite your mom, I'll pay for your graduation dinner. And I was like, everyone? And she's like, everyone. And I was like, okay. So I called my mom and said, I'm graduating college. I'm the first college graduate in her family. And I was like, will you come? And she flew. She came and she met Rosa, my mentor.
Yeah.
And Rosa paid for dinner at P.F. Chang's. And
Right.
Everyone came for graduation, and my dad chose not to come. And my dad was like, I wanted to finish my degree mainly to prove to my dad that I could do it. And he didn't come. He didn't show.
Wow.
But my mom did, who was largely absent from the process, but she couldn't have been prouder. And that's when things started to heal, and things started to, she stayed in my apartment. I had my own apartment that I was paying for myself. I was fully independent.
Yeah.
I had a full-time job while going to finishing this degree.
Yeah.
I had traveled overseas as for part of the semester. I had done big things.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks after graduation, I got the job offer to move to Nebraska, or to interview. And then I moved in October. So I graduated in August and I moved in October. So this was a person that was doing things in the world. But my dad at that point, once he knew my mom was coming, he wanted no part of it. So once I could see that my mom showed up for me finally, and she wasn't selfish, I started to do the work to see like, okay, my dad is also selfish, and my mom was probably ill-equipped to handle 3 children. She moved states. She lived in another state. So I was born in Miami. We grew up in Pennsylvania, in a very, very small town. It was like, there was a lot of poverty.
Yeah.
And
so she was like, away from all extended family.
She had her sister, and that's the reason why she moved.
Okay.
But that was it. That was it. There was no support system. She worked every kind of job she could. She did do community college, but it was the first 4-year degree. But if it weren't for her survival skills, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
So when I started to see, I was like, I need to step back. I was like, if I have a chance of this moving forward, she showed up for me. How can I show up for her?
Yeah.
How can I be fair in this? And that was like, and I did do therapy with this. I was like, I have to accept her for who she is. So, okay, she has tendencies. All right. And then the therapist said, you can put boundaries around the topics you talk about.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
What is this that you speak of?
And that was the beginning of like, I started to see her. My dad did her dirty. She was an 18-year-old girl that got married to get out of her house, which was full of alcohol and mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
He was 10 years her senior, and she was a beautiful young girl. And he did a lot of mental and emotional abuse to her. And when she was 6 months pregnant with me, he basically said, okay, you didn't get the abortion, so you're getting divorced now. She kept me.
Wow.
And you think about that, and that storyline is not false. So many people have told me that from a young age.
Yeah.
Like, I knew it. My dad claimed it. He goes, well, yeah, you're here. I'm stuck with you. So there's nothing I can do about it. Like, I knew from a very young age, she's the reason why I'm alive.
Yeah.
And then when you look at it very logically and look at and you're able to like almost like bird's eye view down, she moved to escape what she felt was unsafe. She moved to what was the person who was going to give her the most support, her sister.
Yeah.
And then she moved to this small town. He didn't pay child support. And she was as developed as she was going to be mentally.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom was a full functioning adult, but she lacks emotional maturity.
Because she's been stuck in survival mode her entire life.
Exactly.
And no one ever taught her the tools. I mean, that generation, they weren't taught to like work on yourself. They're taught to like fucking survive. And that's what they did. They did that.
And that softened my heart.
Yeah.
I stopped being an asshole. And I went and I apologized to her. I was like, I am sorry that I was difficult between ages, I'm sorry for every name I've ever called you. I'm sorry for the judgment. Thank you for keeping me alive. And that was a pivotal moment, like a really key moment in our relationship. I said, I want things to be different. And in this relationship, I want you to tell me when things are wrong. And I will receive it. I won't disrespect you. I'm not going to be like every other person in your life who's going to yell at you and call you names. Like, if we're going to be and do this, we're going to do it differently. And my mom still has a hard time from receiving things from me. When she comes to visit, like, she has multiple sclerosis. We've rented scooters and we've rented wheelchairs. And she's like, you don't have to do this for me. I don't want to be a bother. I'm like, you can't walk very far. You want to go to the zoo? Like, do you have another solution? Like, of course. I rented this for an entire week. I can lift it. And like, is it cumbersome? Sure. But like, we're going to go make memories. Like, my son deserves that. So it's not just for you, but like, why wouldn't I do that? Like, as a person that loves you, she has a really hard time talking about her emotions still, but but like, it's different. It's honest, and I can do honest. Mm-hmm. I can do fair, and I can do compassion.
Yes.
What I can't do is like silence and passive aggressiveness. I can't do that.
Right.
But like, so that's where we sit. And sometimes like we have hiccups, and then I say, hey, I'm going to take a break for a little bit. I'll reach out, but there's an understanding that I'm coming back.
Right.
And that is okay. Like, and for her too, she's like, I'm just going to take a little bit of a break. And I'm like, okay, you reach out, but there's an understanding. There's a safety there.
Yes.
And that did not exist when I was a child, but I had to create that. And I had to be like the leader in that change.
Yeah.
And even my son sees that. Like, so yeah, it affected how I became a mom. I'm super open. Like, my mom never explained anything to me because she didn't have the pause. She didn't have the capacity. My mom's life purpose was to survive and to create me. And then I launched. And that's how I view it. And I think that's fantastic. Like, she's the ultimate survivor of so much shit that should have never happened to humans.
Right.
To let alone one person. So I don't expect her to heal, but I did change how I approached my relationship with my son. I explain everything. We have family meetings, and they're not doomsday. We take turns. We hold whatever he chooses of his toy, and we practice actively listening. And I know enough that probably whatever I'm feeling is going to change in these conversations, because I'm going to learn something from them that I didn't know that was going on. And there was just no visibility of me or any voice. And that has changed how I parent. I change also, like, there's a lot of boundaries when she does come to visit. There's no alcohol visible when he's around. You're allowed to, I'm not going to restrict that you drink, but also there's like, she's not messy drunk. She's not like respectful behavior.
Yeah.
So I think there's reasonable, like you can still drink, but it might need to be in an enclosed container. I don't want to see beer cans around. I don't want to see bottles around. We don't drink in our house. And that's just our prerogative. I don't like how it makes me feel.
Yeah.
But also with Ollie, I'm very honest. And I was like, grandma wasn't always nice to mommy. And abuela wasn't always nice to mommy.
Yeah.
But we've learned, I was like, but I have grown up and I have learned why those things happened. And you don't deserve those things. And that's why we sit down and we talk about things. And that's why we don't hit in our house. And that's why we don't drink in our house.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we do everything together. Like, we're not meant to be alone. I called it, imagine a dog pack. I'm your pack. Daddy is your pack. And our 3 puppies. I was like, we're all yours. And you have all of me. And I am here because of you. Like, I am, everything we do is in support of love for you. He knows that he's loved. I didn't always know that. So like, just like I have taken, like, I'm a very self-aware person and I used to audit laboratories. So I kind of like audited my pain points. I just really wanted his life to be different. So I made sure I was very intentional about the things that he knew and felt in this house, so that he would never go through his life doubting whether he was wanted, whether his voice was like allowed to be heard, and that he felt safe enough to exist, let him feel safe enough to like be whomever he wants. And I can see it's working.
Yeah.
I can see that he's a good human. People tell me when I'm not around, you know, of course he's polite. He's the most polite kid, but he's very inclusive. So like, we even did a family's mission statement. Like, we speak up for others. We are welcoming. We are giving. We are generous. Like, we have a family's mission statement downstairs, and like all of the qualities, we have like 12 qualities that we want to stand for. I was like, this is really important. So when you are generous, this is the impact it can have. And he is those things. And he's only 7. So like, if I died tomorrow, really knock on wood, I don't, but like, he's going to be okay, even with what we've done so far. And I think that just understanding, like, you're not going to ever heal everything, but I've healed enough to make a difference in his life. And that is something I feel so grateful for.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
I am sad that we are running out of time because I just want to talk to you for like another couple hours.
Thank you.
I thank you so much for being on with me, and we're going to run and go into lightning question round.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun. I love questions.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
A ventriloquist.
A ventriloquist? That's so fun.
Yeah.
How did you get into ventriloquy?
I used to pretend I could not move my mouth, and I wanted to be a ventriloquist. I thought it was super fascinating to like talk without moving your lips. That died quickly. I did it for like 2 years. Like,
did you?
Well, at home, but I never got the doll, but it was always like a stuffed animal.
That is so funny. What is your favorite kid-free dinner? Because kids, you know, are autonomous human beings and they have their own opinions on what they like and they don't like. If you're choosing what you're eating for dinner, what is it?
Steak. Or Greek food. I love Greek food so much. That's my hobby right now. I'm teaching myself how to make dairy-free tzatziki sauce.
Oh, nice. You're dairy-free?
Yeah, I'm extremely lactose intolerant.
I am extremely allergic to dairy my whole life. Like, my throat closes up. And it's so interesting because so many people in my life will be like, oh, so your stomach will just hurt. I mean, first of all, who wants to have diarrhea? And second of all, no, my throat will close up.
I have IBS too. So so together it's a bad combo.
Yeah.
And our son's allergic to coconut and peanut, like life-threatening allergies.
Oh, no.
So like a lot of the dairy-free things have coconut oil in them. It's a disaster. It's a lot of exploring things.
Yes. What's your favorite book?
I know it's gonna sound really sad. Is The Little Blue Truck?
The Little Blue Truck?
It's not an adult book. It's a little kid's book, but my brother-in-law gave it to us and he bought us the whole series afterwards. But my husband's late grandfather used to have a blue truck.
Oh,
And it just brings me a lot of joy. We read it often. It was one of the first books he got. It's very worn out, but like I like it because it just reminds me of like joy and simplicity, and I love how much we all love it and the symbolism of like what it means for his family. And I didn't grow up with like sentimental things like that, so I love like how it ties everyone together and to a person that's no longer with us and it was a good person. So
yeah.
I love things like that. I love sentimental things that have meaning, and so that's why there's a lot to it. But I love the Little Blue Truck.
That's so beautiful. My favorite book as a kid was James and the Giant Peach, and I actually still have my childhood like version of that book.
Oh my gosh, I love it. We just recently got into the library because there was a TikToker who was talking about, he was a librarian.
Yeah.
His name is Michael and he's very famous and he's now going to work for PBS Reading Rainbow. And so now Ollie and I go to the library all the time because of that guy from TikTok.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love books. I'm a huge book nerd. What is your guilty pleasure entertainment?
I don't usually do guilt, but I love reality TV.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
I also have a hard time working, so I usually have a show on while I'm like doing back end work. So I usually love, I love 90 Day Fiance. I watch it from the very beginning, like the very beginning when it came out. I watched it before it was even popular. I actually own whole seasons. Like I know every couple, every spinoff of every show I've ever watched. Huge 90 Day Fiance fan.
That is hilarious. You talk about like, I was there first, like Swifties talk about like, I was there when she was country.
Yes. No, I was like, dude, I know original ones. Like when the guy who was super old married the girl from Brazil and they were both Mormons. Where are they now? I know that couple. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it. Okay, so this is a question that I've stolen from the Low Life podcast.
Ooh.
It's too good to not steal. And I love that podcast. If your belly button was an actual button, what would it do?
Make me sing really well.
You like to sing, but you're a little tone deaf?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, I would love that. That would be the gift that I would always wish I could have is to sing. My son wants to fly, but I want to be able to sing well, like the Little Mermaid, you know, right?
Yes.
Every little girl's dream, right? To be a mermaid and to sing.
Yes, literally. And then the final one, what's one thing in motherhood you'd like to say fuck it to?
I think like probably am not gonna be able to articulate this very well, that you have to keep up or that you have to be like everyone else to be not crazy. I can't tell you how many times Ollie's come home and they've said that, oh, so-and-so's mom thinks that you're crazy. Just because I'm different doesn't mean I'm crazy, but I show up at every event. I volunteer. I'm room mom. Mm-hmm. Just because I'm different doesn't mean that, or maybe I'm not installing my own pool in my backyard or we're different income brackets. Doesn't mean that I'm not just as fun or cool as you are. Like, why can't we just be humans? Like, fuck it with having to keep up with each other.
Yes.
Why can't we just be like, oh, she showed up. She's cool. Like she's being a room mom, or your kid and my kid go to the same classroom. We just might live in the same district or the same school zone. But you know, I don't care if you have your own like $80,000 car and I drive a Honda CR-V. Like, you know, why can't like my efforts and how I show up for school be enough? Or like, you know, I get looked up all the time. You Google me, I'm all over the place, but like, I'm still a great mom. I may just not be traditional. Yeah. And I don't want to be, because what I'm trying to create for my son is definitely out of the box.
Yeah. Well, I would love to just break this whole idea that there is a traditional mom. Like, I think that we're all different and we're supposed to all be unique as people and as mothers. I don't wear Lululemon, and I don't keep up with the Joneses because one, it's not what I want to do. Right. But why does this have to be the regiment of like the white SUV, the Stanley Cup, and like Lululemons, and like you're rolling up with like the most expensive stuff? That's not real life. Yeah. It's real life for some people and that's fine, but it's not real life for everybody. And that's also true. But it's not also like what makes you a good human. I'm after being like
Let's, good for you if you have those things. I'm not shitting on your parade.
Right.
But like, that is not like, I don't know.
That's not the standard that we all aspire to become because it doesn't fit everybody.
Yeah, I've had to really wrap my brain around that one. It's different if you leave me a comment online, but then if your kid said something to my kid about it, that means that like there was extra conversations for my kid to bring that home. Like there was multiple, like that is like pretty involved. I'm just like, I don't know, that one kind of stung differently. Like, you know, because it's different than just like a keyboard warrior. It's like you actually had a conversation where your kid heard it, and then my kid brought it to school, told my kid, and then he brought it home.
Yeah.
So like, and what kind of impact did that have on him?
Right.
So yeah.
Well, keep being your beautiful, unique, glorious self.
Thank you.
Because you're awesome. Thank you so much for being on this podcast.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor to share space with you.
Are you living your one wild life to the fullest? You're not? Why the fuck not? What are you waiting for? The time to live is now, mama. Do not wait until your youngest is in college. Let your dreams hire me for an hour so I can explain how I can help you achieve any goal in your life. You've put yourself off long enough. It's time to pour into you. The link to schedule your 60-minute complimentary consultation is in my show notes. Join the community of Fuck It Moms by following me on Instagram and Facebook at Fuck It Mothering. That's fuck without the U. So FCK It Mothering. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you never miss your weekly encouragement. And please rate, review, comment, and share. All of these things help with the algorithms, so that way when other overwhelmed moms are looking for encouragement, they can find me. Every month, I give away one of my favorite books and a Starbucks card to a lucky winner. All you have to do to enter is write a review or tag me in social media when you share an episode. See you next Sunday, gorgeous.